Hi everyone, welcome to Business English Podcast. I'm Tom. Today, we'll explore our new topic and show how it can help you improve your communication at work. We'll also share a simple structure for our discussion.
In this episode, we'll focus on thinking in business English so you can feel more confident and spontaneous while expressing ideas. We'll outline the main discussion, provide practical tips, give a mini lesson, and wrap up with a helpful summary.
In short, you'll learn how to shift from translating everything in your head to thinking directly in English. That's a game changer for building genuine fluency in business settings. Alright, let me see. Thinking in business English is crucial because it streamlines how you process information. If you constantly translate from your native language, you risk hesitating and losing momentum during fast-paced discussions.
Exactly. I just think about meetings where decisions have to be made quickly. If you pause to interpret every phrase, it can appear you're unsure or lack confidence. That's why building direct English thinking is so valuable now.
Yes, worldwide business relies on clear, prompt communication. With more global companies encouraging English as their working language, the ability to think and respond instantly can open doors. It's basically a skill that sets you apart in cross-cultural teams.
That's right. And, I've seen professionals miss opportunities because they took too long to articulate their thoughts. You see, in a competitive environment, every second counts. Thinking in English reduces delays and helps you negotiate or pitch ideas smoothly.
Actually, let's talk about some real-world examples. I recall a sales manager who conducted training sessions in Singapore. He said once he started thinking in English, he could handle questions from diverse teams without freezing or repeating himself.
Yes, I've heard similar stories. In fact, many multinational companies have English conversation clubs. These groups are all about practicing on-the-spot thinking, so people can work through topics like finance reports or marketing strategies in a more natural way.
Well, the interesting part is how your brain adapts. Studies show that regular immersion in English, through reading emails, listening to podcasts, or watching business news, can shift your default language mode. Then you naturally form thoughts in English first.
That's a powerful trend. And nowadays, you see so many resources for advanced learners, like dedicated business newspapers, industry-specific webinars, or even short online courses focusing on negotiation tactics. This wealth of content really accelerates English thinking development.
Exactly. By the way, thinking in English also helps with subtle language nuances. For instance, how you phrase a sentence can reveal your politeness level or clarity. People who think in English often pick up these nuances faster.
That's really important in business contexts. If someone always translates polite expressions from their own language, it might sound too indirect or too formal in English. Getting the right tone is easier when you think in English.
So let's break down what it means to think in English. Basically, it's about forming your inner monologue, your mental commentary, directly in English. It's not just speech. It's the entire process of reasoning and reacting in real time.
Sure, this idea of internalizing English can happen in everyday moments. For example, when reading a work email, try to respond mentally in English before typing. Or when you think about your to-do list, phrase it in English.
Actually, that's a practical approach. Over time, your brain connects ideas with English words more quickly. Then you won't feel stuck searching for translations. It's about building a direct pathway between your thoughts and the English language.
Let me see. Another aspect is being comfortable with partial knowledge. People sometimes hesitate to think in English because they want perfect grammar. But in reality, focusing on fluency first can help you communicate faster, then refine accuracy later.
Exactly. If you wait until every sentence is flawless, you never speak up. In the fast-paced business world, people appreciate clarity and directness. Overthinking grammar can slow you down, so it's better to get your message out and adjust as needed.
And, that ties to confidence. If you're willing to form English thoughts, even if they aren't perfect, you'll gain trust in your abilities. Then, with continuous exposure, your accuracy improves, and you become more natural in business conversations.
Let's look at how big tech companies encourage this mindset. Many have English-only policies in official meetings. This environment forces employees to think in English by default. Eventually, it becomes second nature, especially when the entire team adopts the habit.
Yes, it's a growing practice. In Europe, plenty of cross-border projects are done in English. Colleagues from France, Germany, Italy, and Spain might share one working language. The more they engage, the more natural it becomes to process concepts in English.
I mean, that's the key. Consistent usage. If you only switch to English occasionally, your brain won't adapt well. But if you make it part of your daily routine, you start hearing and formulating sentences in English subconsciously.
Basically, it's like learning to ride a bike. At first, it's awkward, but when you practice regularly, you stop thinking about every movement. In language terms, you'll focus on the conversation, not the act of translating or second-guessing grammar.
That's so true. Well, let's highlight the importance of thinking in business English specifically. In many industries, specialized terminology and cultural references play huge roles. If you develop English thinking, you'll learn these nuances faster and integrate them into your workflow.
Yes, especially with things like emailing clients from different regions or collaborating on complex projects. The moment you can think in English, your email tone, word choice, and structure become more aligned with global standards.
It's also about understanding context quickly. Business English has unique phrases like touch base, circle back, or move the needle. When you think in English, you catch these expressions faster and respond appropriately.
That's right. And those phrases can seem odd if you translate them literally into another language. By forming thoughts in English, you start to grasp the intended meaning behind these idiomatic expressions, saving time and avoiding confusion.
Exactly. I think we've covered why thinking in English is so valuable. Let's transition into some practical tips on how to build this skill and incorporate it into your daily life. All right, let's dig into practical strategies for thinking in business English. One approach is to immerse yourself daily. Watch short videos on leadership or finance. Read industry news in English. You want consistent exposure to keep your brain primed.
Yes, and you can pair that with active mental exercises. For example, narrate your day in English. You might say, I'm drafting a proposal for our client, or I should schedule a meeting by 2 p.m. This trains you to think spontaneously.
Well, let me see. Another tip is to practice quick responses. You could set a timer and describe a business concept in 30 seconds. Don't stop to rethink grammar. Just speak. This helps you develop that rapid English thought process.
It's also helpful to create a small vocabulary bank of industry terms. But instead of memorizing them in your native language first, link each term directly to its English meaning. Like if you learn benchmarking, imagine the actual process.
Exactly. Visualizing the concept while using English labels your brain with an English tag. That way, when you think about it later, you recall the English word instead of your mother tongue. It accelerates your internal English dialogue.
Also, consider shadowing exercises. Listen to a short segment of a business podcast, pause, and repeat the ideas out loud. It's not just about pronunciation, but about training your mind to quickly adopt English phrasing and rhythm.
That's great. Another strategy is to engage in real conversations, maybe with a language exchange partner. Even if it's 15 minutes a day discussing workplace scenarios, it forces you to think in English and respond on the spot.
Yes, and if you can't find a partner, talking to yourself can work too. Maybe it sounds funny, but summarizing your day out loud in English helps reinforce new phrases. Basically, you become your own conversation partner.
I mean, that's exactly how some people build fluency on their own. They record themselves giving a business pitch, then listen to it that way. They catch awkward translations or grammar issues, and train themselves to think more fluidly.
Actually, you can also incorporate reading aloud. Pick an English article about your industry and read a few paragraphs out loud each day. Over time, your mouth and mind sync up with English structures, making it easier to form thoughts internally.
It's not just about practice, but also about mindset. Give yourself permission to think in English. Drop the fear of making mistakes. And remember that clarity is more valuable than grammatical perfection in many business settings.
Exactly. And that leads to the next tip. Set specific goals. Maybe aim to speak entirely in English for one meeting a week, or commit to writing your daily planner in English. Small, consistent targets build that thinking habit.
Let me see. Another helpful approach is to utilize apps or online tools that prompt you in English. For instance, setting your phone or email interface to English can remind you to think in English each time you use them.
So true. Also, reward yourself for milestones. Maybe treat yourself if you manage a full phone call in English without reverting to your native language. Positive reinforcement can keep your motivation high and build confidence in your new habit.
Yes, building momentum is essential. You see, once you realize you can handle daily tasks in English, you'll be more comfortable presenting ideas or leading discussions. Step by step, your mental language shifts to English before you even notice.
Basically, consistency and a proactive mindset are the foundation. Don't just wait for English usage to happen at work. Create those moments. Engage with business content, practice talking, and celebrate small wins along the way.
All right, I think we've shared a range of tips. Next, let's go into a brief English lesson segment. We'll pick some expressions we've used today and break them down so everyone can understand and apply them correctly.
Let me add one more tip before we move on. Practice thinking in English during business trips or conferences. Use English for reading signs, ordering food, or networking. Immersing yourself outside the office can boost your confidence quickly.
Exactly. Anytime you can switch your internal language to English, do it. These small practices, repeated often, lead to major breakthroughs. Now let's officially jump into our English lesson to reinforce today's learning.
Sure, let's do that. I'm excited to highlight 5 key words and idioms we've mentioned, so everyone can refine their vocabulary and communicate more effectively in business settings.
All right, welcome to our English lesson. Let's discuss 5 words or idioms we've touched upon. Touch base, move the needle, benchmarking, on the spot, and circle back. We'll go over their meanings, usage, and examples.
Sure, let's start with touch base. It basically means to make brief contact with someone. In a business setting, you might say, "I'll touch base with you next week about the project," to imply a quick check-in or follow-up.
Exactly. It's an informal way to say you'll reconnect or update someone. Next is move the needle. This phrase refers to making a notable difference or impact. For instance, our new marketing strategy really moved the needle on sales.
Yes, it's commonly used in discussions about results or performance. If something moves the needle, it generates significant change. Now, benchmarking is another term we mentioned. It means comparing your processes or metrics against a standard or best practice.
Right. For instance, a company might benchmark its customer service response times against industry leaders. This helps them see where they stand and identify areas for improvement. Next, we have on the spot, which means doing something immediately or spontaneously.
You hear it often in phrases like on-the-spot decisions or on-the-spot feedback. It suggests real-time action without delay. Finally, circle back is used when you plan to return to a previous topic or conversation later.
For example, "I'll circle back to you once I have the final report." It means you'll revisit the matter. So these 5 expressions, touch base, move the needle, benchmarking, on the spot, and circle back, are essential in business English.
Yes, they help you sound more natural and professional. To summarize their usage, touch base is for quick follow-ups. Move the needle implies impact. Benchmarking is about comparison. On the spot means immediate. And circle back covers returning to a topic.
Exactly. Try incorporating these into your daily discussions or emails. Practicing them in context helps you internalize the meaning. Use them when you talk about project progress, propose new strategies, or schedule your next meeting.
And if you keep these 5 expressions in mind, you'll notice them in business articles, corporate emails, and conversations. Being aware of their nuances can boost your confidence and help you engage more effectively in English-speaking workplaces.
That wraps up our English lesson. We hope you find these words and idioms practical. Next, let's do a quick summary of today's topic and tips, and then share our final thoughts to close this podcast.
Yes, let's move on. I think summarizing what we've learned will really help everyone consolidate their new insights and keep practicing the art of thinking in business English.
One more note. Remember to experiment with these expressions in real conversations. Language becomes alive when you apply it practically. So, even if you're unsure at first, give it a shot and refine your usage over time.
Exactly. Learning these terms is just the start. Integrating them into your thought process will take you further. It's all about making English a core part of how you reason, plan, and communicate, especially in professional settings.
All right, that concludes our English lesson. Next, we'll wrap up with our closing remarks. Let's bring together everything we've covered and offer a final send-off to help everyone keep moving forward.
Okay, let's recap what we discussed. We started by highlighting the importance of thinking in business English, especially in today's global work environments. Translating in your head can slow you down, but training yourself to think directly in English changes everything.
Yes, we then explored the current trends, like English becoming the official language in many international companies. We emphasized how consistent exposure, daily practice, and a mindset shift can spark real progress in your fluency.
In practical tips, we covered strategies like immersing yourself in business content, narrating your daily tasks in English, setting small goals, and using shadowing or quick response drills. All these help you transition from translation-based thinking to natural English reasoning.
Then, in our English lesson, we explored 5 key expressions: touch base, move the needle, benchmarking, on the spot, and circle back. Mastering these phrases boosts your professional vocabulary and lets you interact more confidently in a global setting.
Basically, our core message is that thinking in English isn't an overnight change. It's built through consistent practice and a willingness to jump in, make some mistakes, and keep refining. The reward is smoother communication and better career prospects.
Exactly. As you implement these ideas, remember to stay patient with yourself. Language development is incremental, but each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to thinking effortlessly in English, which can be a huge asset professionally.
Yes, and we hope this podcast gives you practical tools to start that journey. Whether you're making quick notes, practicing self-talk, or focusing on those key expressions, every effort strengthens your business English thinking skills.
All right, that's our show for today. We truly appreciate you tuning in. If you found this helpful, feel free to explore more episodes or share it with colleagues who also want to enhance their English thinking and fluency.
Well, we've covered everything from mindset shifts to vocabulary tips. Keep practicing, and remember, thinking in English is a process. The more you immerse, the more natural it becomes. Good luck on your journey, and keep moving forward.
Thank you for joining us on the Business English Podcast. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep thinking, keep practicing, and keep reaching for that next level in your career.